What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1951 Frazer Sedan. Up front is a 3.7-liter inline six, and down below is a 3-speed manual transmission with overdrive. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Frazer here today because this is a piece of automotive history. The Frazer company, or Kaiser Frazer, only lasted from 1946 to 1951 here in the States. Now, they sold off their assets, and there was a company that still built them down in Argentina throughout the 60s, blah, blah, blah. But actual Kaiser Frazer only lasted a handful of years. And so, this was their final year. And I'm excited to share all of the coolness with Kaiser Frazer and the Frazer specifically, and why this car went away. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackcradle.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. All right, before we get on to the rest of the video, quick little note. There is a lot of brake squeaking in the video. I couldn't hear it while I was driving, and so sometimes I'm talking over the brake squeaks. I recognize it's very annoying, and I apologize very much. Normally when cars brakes squeak, I shut up so it doesn't ruin the audio. I actually physically could not hear it with my ears while recording this, and so it was picked up by the mic, and I apologize for it, but I can't really edit it out. So again, my apologies, but let's get on to this awesome Frazer. But let's get back to that 226 Continental inline six. Well, this was kind of Frazer's bread and butter at the time. They didn't really put a big emphasis on motor building. And so the 226, which ends up being about 3.7 liters, was their go-to engine. It made 115 horsepower, which actually is pretty decent. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 3-speed manual transmission shifted on the column, but it also has an overdrive. So there's a little switch underneath the steering column, and you pull that out, and then once you're in the top of third gear, you let off the gas for a second, it'll actually dump it into a kind of overdrive, which is some pretty cool engineering, especially for 1951. The transmission is shifted on the column, like I mentioned, and it is a little interesting to get used to. Shifting on the column just isn't really my favorite. It's very cool and unique, especially here today in 2024, but it's a little bit clunky. I don't really love that feeling of it, but I'm not gonna complain. I'm in a Frazer. Last but not least, the Frazer is rear-wheel drive. However, the Kaisers, which were slightly below the Frazers, actually had concepts for front-wheel drive. The plan was to make Kaiser the sort of economy outlet for the company and have the Frazer as the little bit more luxury, not necessarily to fight Cadillac or Lincoln, but a little bit more upscale. And so this got the traditional rear-wheel drive setup. How does it feel to drive a Frazer sedan? It's nice. You know, besides the clunky shifting, but every car in this era was shifted on the column, it's actually quite a nice ride. It's pretty heavy. Everything in here feels very solid, very sturdy, and you definitely notice that while driving around town, but that's how 50s cars were. Visibility isn't great, especially because I do have this visor up above the window and a split front window. So I do have this little aftermarket piece that allows me to see up and see stoplights, which is kind of a good thing to have. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a bunch of gauges. Off to the left, I have my oil pressure and fuel. Then I have my speedometer, which has the original sticker on it for the break-in speeds. Very, very cool to see that so many years later, 70 years later. To the right, I have a clock, because you know you need that. And off to the right, we have the temperature and battery gauges. Of course, the battery is a 6-volt system. On the steering wheel, I just have the Frazer badge, which is absolutely awesome to see here in 2024. I've never laid eyes on it before, and now I get to. And off to the left, I do have a headlight switch, and this button is actually for the starter motor. So you turn the key, and then you hit this button to turn the vehicle on. On the door, we just have our smoker's window. Latch get in and out, which is a little interesting. You actually push this plastic piece in. I think that's pretty neat. And then the crank for the window. And moving into the center, we get our radio, as well as our heater controls and this beautiful Frazer badge. Absolutely love that. Really, really cool to see. We also have a cigarette lighter and our blower and the key to turn on and off. Very standard stuff, but all very cool. However, something this car doesn't feature is a cup holder because it's a 50s car and why would it? So it fails a big finger bottle test, blah, blah, blah. Now, the seats are very comfortable, very 50s, and a previous owner actually put these covers on to not only protect it, but to help you be able to slide over in the front seat. So, very cool to see, they're comfortable, and I do get a little center console. However, speaking of seats, let's hop in the back and do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 1951 Frazer Sedan. So cool. I do have a little Frazer branded cigarette lighter and ashtray. The seat covers carry on back here. I get tons of headroom. Me and my hat can fit back here very, very easily. It was very common in that style in the 1950s. We didn't really know how to do small cars in the 1950s. We didn't really figure that out till like the end of the 70s, early 80s. Minus the Nash Metropolitan, which was its own thing. But I'm talking us Americans, so big cars, big, and that's definitely a theme back here. My knees don't have a prayer of hitting the seat in front of me. My head has no chance of hitting the ceiling, and that is a beautiful thing. But as you might be able to tell by my face, it's very warm today, and I don't have any AC. So I am sweating it out for YouTube here today. But let's hop into the trunk. We'll talk about the cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Oh, the breeze feels heavenly. All right, so around the back of the Frazer, and you might be saying, Zach, where's that handle? I'll show you where it is. It's right here. So this looks like just one big like ornament. It's actually the handle. So you pull it up here, so it's vertical, and then pull it up from there. Once we're in the back here, we do get a spare tire, plenty of space, nothing really too crazy about that. 1950s cars were very good about trunks. In the 1940s and late 1930s is when we started even seeing trunks. So this is still like an early era of rear cargo space, if you could believe that. So very, very cool to see that around the back of the Frazer Sedan, but that's the trunk space you would get in 1951. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I absolutely adore the look of the Frazer. I think it looks so unique, I think it looks interesting, and it's very 50s without being a 1957 Chevy Bel Air in cherry red that you see at every single mom and pop diner from here to Timbuktu. And I would say in all honesty, it probably skews more 40s than 50s, and that was actually kind of one of the demise of Frazer. But overall, it's just a cool looking car. How can you say anything else? However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving my first ever Frazer? It's so cool, no news there. However, this car is very interesting and very important because the first 2 years of Frazer, they actually sold really well and they started making really good cars. But towards the end of the cycle, people wanted something new. They wanted a car updated every single year. And Kaiser Frazer made a fatal mistake in 1949 by not investing any money in their future. They just stuck with the 1948s, and every other big maker was preparing for 1950, a big model year update, and Frazer didn't. And that ended up hurting them really, really bad. Now, there were also some supply chain issues going on, and both Henry Kaiser and Joseph Frazer, who started the companies together, they were convinced that the big three automakers were trying to sabotage independent automakers from being able to get into Detroit. A little bit of conspiracy, there's no hard evidence of that, but what ended up killing Frazer, honestly, was mismanagement. And Kaiser went on to actually do okay in the 1950s. They ended up buying the Willys company, Willys Overland, producing Jeep products, that sort of thing. But Frazer's didn't last, and so this was really a 1950 Frazer that they added a couple things to, and they decided to just build them until they ran out of parts. So they only made about 10,000 of these, and that's when the parts ran out. And so they called it a day for Frazer. So while Frazer was rather short-lived, the cars were good. But it's a lesson in economics, and it's a lesson in business management. No matter how good your cars might be, no matter how competitive, no matter how well you market them, no matter what you do, if your fundamental business plan isn't right, it's gonna go belly up. And Frazer went belly up. But that doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying this cheery little sedan here today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to CJ for letting me take out his Frazer. So cool to get the opportunity to do this. I have filmed 5 of his cars here today. CJ has been wonderful and I appreciate him very much. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.